show prepped up and getting ready to go here. Waiting. There he is, right here. Are you there, Ed?
Yes. How are you doing?
Excellent. Fantastic. Hang on 2 seconds here. Hang on. All right, give us a test. Say hello, everybody. How you doing? Yada yada. Want to test the mic?
Hello, everybody. How are you doing?
All right. Oh, that sounds really, really, really good. Good. Great. All right, Ed. I hear you got a campaign stop coming up that you're going to go across the country. We're going to talk about that. I want to talk about Seattle's Sharia law thing. We're going to talk about Hillary server gate and the Iran thing. How now we keep discovering it's like Obamacare. We keep discovering more and more things now that the thing is getting out there, and yeah, it's not looking too good. So that's pretty much what we're going to talk about, and anything else that comes up as the conversation goes along. So
okay, sounds good.
All right, great. Thank you for calling back in again. And yeah, I am gonna talk about maybe having. I am thinking of doing that presidential debate thing. It's tentatively penciled in on paper. I'm trying to work out how it's going to work, and maybe I'll talk to you a little bit about that on air, because I do kind of want to spill the beans and announce it. And I know you said you had something to do, but maybe get your input on it, that kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I think that's great. It's just a matter. I can understand that it may be hard to catch everybody at the same time, but yeah, no, I think it's great.
Good, excellent. All right, we're about 25 seconds out, so everybody just stay calm, and we are filming, so this is going to go back on YouTube again. And let's get a check here. We are doing good with that. All right, we're ready to go momentarily here.
Mom, can I have a popsicle?
No, honey, you'll spoil it.
Hey parents, tired of those out-of-control kids throwing embarrassing tantrums wherever they go? At the grocery store, on the playground, even at the dinner table. You've had it with parenting, but wait, there is a solution. Introducing NapTime, the latest, most effective tool for child tantrum prevention. It's simple. Just douse a rag with our patented Sleepy Time formula, place it over your child's cry hole, press and hold gently for 8 to 12 seconds, and presto, no more tantrum.
I was beginning to think adoption was the only way out. Then a friend of mine introduced me to NapTime. It's never been so quiet around here.
The secret lies in NapTime's revolutionary fast-to-sleep formula. Developed by military-trained scientist doctors from NASA, NapTime's powerful molecules rush to the child's brain on contact, gently inducing instant tranquility.
This is chloroform.
Already put those wallet-draining crap factories out on the street? That's okay! NapTime works in any situation. On the golf course. An awkward blind date.
I had a really good time tonight.
It even works on pets.
After we had our first child here, we regretted it almost immediately.
We didn't know that she'd cry so much.
Talk about defective. But thanks to NapTime, our little Samantha here hasn't made a noise in weeks. I keep her in a shoebox.
Call now and we'll send you your very own 24-ounce bottle of NapTime solution for only 23 easy payments of $1.99. But wait, there's more! Act quickly and you'll also receive the all-new Dream Sack absolutely free. It's compact and portable for those on-the-go tantrums. Just cover it, tighten it, and forget about it. It's that simple.
I can't breathe good.
So if this looks familiar,
I feel pregnant.
Then don't wait. Order today and join the millions of Americans who just can't stop saying,
Thanks, nap time.
Thanks, nap time.
Thanks, nap time.
nap time, when they just won't shut up. Nap time is not legal in the following states.
Good morning, America, and welcome once again to the hardest working show on social media today. I am your host, Christopher Mader, and we are broadcasting here on the new Ambush Studios in Worcester, Mass, on the Northern Lights Radio Network, WNLMradio.com. Our guest tonight, calling in for a second time and proving once again that Mean Potatoes is nationwide, presidential candidate Ed Baker from Oregon. Also later on, we'll have some great comedy and a bunch of live music on vinyl, so stick around for some awesome rock. So, sit back and relax. Be sure your seat trays and tables are in the proper upright position. Helmets and safety glasses are required. And if the content of the show offends you, there's some quarters. Call someone who cares. Because we are a no apologies radio show. The Meat and Potato Show, conservative talk, and awesome rock on the Northern Lights Radio Network, WNLMradio.com. All right, folks, once more unto the breach as the candidate interviews continues into 2015 and 2016, as I said earlier, calling in all the way from Oregon, running for president. No party affiliation. My good friend Edward Baker from Portland, Oregon. Edward, welcome once again to the Meat and Potato Show. How are you doing tonight, buddy?
I'm doing great, and thank you for having me back on.
I absolutely enjoyed our last interview. I liked having the two-way discussion there with you and Jonathan Doon calling in from Ireland. And that's just kind of one of the dynamics we do. But tonight you're pretty much, it's a solo act for you tonight. And one of the things I want to open up our conversation with, I was looking at your website. You're going on a tour for, because you're running for president. Why don't you tell us about it? What's going to happen there?
Yeah, I'm excited about it. The bottom line is that there is a conference in Maine, and I'll get into the specifics of that, but they wanted me to attend, and they ended up getting together the money to pay for my travel there. And it took a little bit for them to do that, so we were looking at flights, but the prices went up a lot in the last couple days.
Sure.
So they're going to pay for a Greyhound ticket, which the good thing on that, my whole plan to begin with was to travel on Greyhound because it's inexpensive and you can go city to city. That was going to be a big part of my campaigning, but the funds really haven't come in to do that in general. So the downside of this is I'm not going to have that much time in each of these cities, but we are stopping in 15 states, and I'm looking forward to, being able to meet people at rest stops and all those sorts of things. There's 30 minutes here, an hour there, and but it's not as good as what I would like because I'd like to be able to spend 8 hours or a full day in each of those states.
Sure.
But it'll be nice though to plant some seeds, hand out some cards, and then when I get to Maine, I'm going to be there for a few days. The conference, I reach out to all kinds of groups and have met so many people. And one of the groups of people that I have talked to are people that are really wanting full disclosure of anything that is classified or would be classified. They don't want such government secrecy. And so I'm very big on anything that is classified that isn't going to be a risk to our national defense or our military. Isn't going to put them in direct danger. Sure. And so these are people that have experienced UFOs or things along those lines. And so this includes former military members that have testified at the National Press Club and said, hey, we, while guarding nuclear test sites, these crafts came over and disabled our missiles and, these different things. And these aren't just one or two people. These are, people representing 120 military members that I'm talking about.
I'm thinking of the Disclosure Project. I just saw that documentary a few days ago. It's interesting that you're talking about that. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, so I bring it up because, one, I personally have never had any experience, and I can't speak of that, but I can tell you the people that talk to me, they certainly have had an experience. They certainly believe what they believe. They've had what they've had happen, and I really look forward to spending the time with them and hearing their stories. And there's like going to be 11 speakers or something at this conference, and then all the attendees as well. But the bottom line is, no matter what those experiences were, there's no question that our military deserves to be heard when they come out and say, hey, this is what we experienced, and we want to know what this stuff was. They're concerned about the national defense from a standpoint that these crafts or whatever disabled numerous nuclear weapons and things of that nature. And this was in Montana and Nevada and Washington State and all kinds of different states. It's not just one place.
Sure.
And what I want to emphasize, it's not, the people that will be at this conference are not the military people I speak of, but I did some research and was looking into these different things, and that was one of the things that really caught my eye, or my ear, was listening to these military people go up and testify and represent all these other military people that want disclosure. And so that's a big thing for me. And I want to represent everybody in America that wants the truth out there, whatever it is. If these are all military craft, then let us know that. I mean, why screw with people's lives and have them ridiculed and told that they're crazy and all these things when they clearly have witnessed something? Why not just be honest about it and put it out there? I mean, so at least let them know what's going on. So,
but I don't think it is. I don't think it is military craft. I mean, we've got some top secret stuff, I'll guarantee that. I don't think it is. I mean, I'm a believer. I've never experienced. I've seen enough videos. I've read enough about it. I just told you I just watched that documentary, The Disclosure Project. I mean, what they did to those scientists, for crying out loud, they practically bankrupted them. And it was only by the hard work of the one scientist. I wish I knew you were going to talk about this. I would have gotten that material together. That he was able to basically rebuild his organization, and it's a huge organization. It's international. I mean, this is no longer a fluke anymore. Okay, if this was 1950 or 1960, okay, we could laugh at everybody. Oh, you saw a UFO. Oh, great. Well, now what do we know? Let's look at some things that we know, folks. First of all, we have deep space telescopes, and we've discovered planets and other star systems. We've discovered planets that are in what they call that Goldilocks zone. We know that there are billions, if not trillions, of galaxies, and in those billions, if not trillions of galaxies, are billions, if not trillions, of star systems, which means that there are probably quadrillions of planets out there. Now, when you start talking numbers like that, I mean, the concept that there isn't something else out there just becomes completely ludicrous. It becomes totally and completely ludicrous. There's no such thing as we are all alone. I completely refuse to believe it. There's the skepticism that, well, these vessels or these civilizations will not be able, even they wouldn't be able to attain interstellar flight. Well, who are you to say that? Just because you're going off of what we know with our technology? That there isn't some society that is maybe 10,000 years older than even ours that have long since surpassed that? And who's to say, and I happen to believe that there are not only aggressive species out there, but there are probably benevolent ones out there as well. who have attained this. The benevolent ones probably fly by and look at us and say, yeah, they're still very primitive. They still drive around in fossil fuel cars, for crying out loud. They're very primitive. They still go to war with each other. They're very primitive. And they leave us alone. And then there are the other ones, which is where I think all these abductions come from. It's like, I think these are I don't want to say malignant. What's the word I want to use? Well, I'm going to say the evil ones, the bad ones that are out there, which is why you have the abductions. You have the experiments. You have these people that have been traumatized by these things. There was also that movie a couple of years ago with, it took place in Texas. It's based on a true story. And a woman had her children, and she claimed that they were abducted, and that she worked in that paranormal, and she worked in that, she actually put people, she was a psychiatrist, she put people under hypnosis, and they would tell all these stories of these things that happened to them. She started investigating them. Of course, the government tried to shut her down, and then, of course, something happened to her, and Mila Jovovich, she was the main actress in the movie. It was a few years ago, and that was a chilling movie. And what made it chilling is that it was based on a true story. And during the movie, they actually had side interviews with the actual woman that Jovovich, whose character she was playing, the character she was playing. And they would do side interviews with her, and side interviews with some of the other people involved in that community. That's what made it especially chilling. So you're going to go meet some of these people. This is that conference that got hold of you that wants you to come out and speak to them.
Yeah, there's I believe 11 speakers, and then it could be 100 attendees. It could be the most that they've had is 250. So they range from that, but it's I'm looking forward to it and being able to give them a place to. I'm going there to hear their stories and to let them know, that I am listening to them and that I will represent them, in this election.
Sure.
And so yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And I'll tell you, this group was so interested in getting me there. Some of these organizers. They went out of their way to put together the money necessary for me to get there, because I'm still working without a dime. I wish I had the money where I could just say I'm going to go to this on my own, but they took steps and they worked to get me there, and I'm excited.
What's your take on this? Why do you think the government hides it? I know that there's that element of we don't want this information to get out, because quite literally, I mean, our military is powerless against an alien race, that far more advanced than us. And yeah, you basically have worldwide panic. But, I mean, why? Why do you think that they would hide this? Is that the only reason?
Your guess is mine. I say, when I first started looking into the UFO things many years ago, it was a cross between for curiosity of what would be on YouTube or what the videos would be, and in part entertainment, seeing just what is this, I wasn't really that much of a believer, but I've become much more of one just in talking directly, one-on-one with these people that have experienced things. And so, it's hard to say. It's when they have things like Area 51 that they did not even exist for many years, and these other, clear secrecy things where they just don't tell you anything or they lie to you, that it bothers me a lot. And they say, well, that's just what the military does. They have a big secrecy thing. But what was this technology, for any military craft that they have created? Is it based on alien technology? Did they back engineer crafts? I think that's very likely to be the case. And I think what you brought up earlier about the technology differences that are potential in other parts of the world, in the galaxy and all this stuff, I think that's very likely. And who knows what resources they have on those planets that we don't have? I mean, who knows? Your imagination, can lead you wherever on that. But yeah, I imagine that's true. But the panic, fear, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what difference that really makes. What is true, and what the military was saying is that these craft came in and disabled all their missiles, and that that once in a while, like one or two of their missiles not all 10. You know, in this case, when these crafts would come over, all 10 would go down. And, you know, so they said that is a concern of national defense right there, to be aware of that.
Right.
And so I don't know. I just believe them. I think they need to be heard. And I think we just need the truth to come out, whatever it is.
I wondered if in our lifetime, in our lifetime we'll actually have a first contact. I wonder what it would take. You know, as a former Star Trek fan myself, you know, I understand. I saw the movie First Contact, and one of the things about the Prime Directive is, you know, they don't make contact with an alien species until they, you know, detect that they've discovered, you know, interstellar travel, basically, i.e., warp drive. And that's kind of like an evolutionary stepping stone to, well, they've discovered this, now they're going to start exploring, now we've got to start dealing with these people because it's only a matter of time before they eventually come to us. But again, these races that are out there that have this technology that is just so far in advanced, again, I'm of those two camps. There's the benevolent, and then there's the malfeasant ones that are out there. And I just hope that we meet the benevolent ones before we meet the malfeasant ones, because, but even like you said, even all these sightings, you know, they disable our electronics, disable our missiles, disable our stuff. I mean, that's not the sign of a friendly hello in my book, as far as I am. And I wish you luck on that. I saw on your itinerary that Massachusetts is on your list of states to visit. Do you know where in Massachusetts you're going to be visiting?
Let me find it real quick. I think it's Boston, but the question is what time and how long would I be there?
Right.
What day and time? I'll take a glance at that. Should just take me a couple minutes to find it. But one of the things that I said all along, even before meeting these people, is that in a 1,461-day term, I don't play golf, you know, so I'm not going to be like the current president that goes
Sure.
up and plays 20-some or 30-some rounds of golf. So, you know, I'm always said that I'd be happy to take a day and personally go visit Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio, where they say the wreckage from Roswell was taken. And then also, of course, Area 51, and take a look at it myself. I would like to be able to take a team of people with me. Now, I highly doubt that would be possible. But what I've been told is that my security clearance as president wouldn't even permit me to do that.
That's
to
amazing.
even go to these places.
That's
and
amazing.
I find that pretty disturbing. And if that is the case, I would definitely make some noise about that. But let's see. So Boston, I would transfer in Boston at 12:20 p.m. And I would be there for almost 4 hours. And that would be on Thursday, next Thursday, a week from yesterday. So yeah, this upcoming Thursday.
Excellent. Next Thursday. What's he say? 12:20? You said?
12:20. The bus is supposed to get in and leave at 4:15.
I'm going to see if I can get out there. Get out there and at least meet you. Maybe do an impromptu on the street interview with you. That I can't promise.
That'd be cool.
I can't promise,
Yeah.
but that's what I'm going to try to do. That's when I saw that. I said, "Oh, I got to see. I got to find out what he's doing. I got to find out where he's going in Boston." And I was kind of hoping that you'd stop up in Worcester, but hey, you can't have everything. You know what I mean?
Right.
Let's.
I only stop in Massachusetts, but I mean, we just luck out that way because, like, for example, in gosh, I just had one here, but like Philadelphia, I get in at 2 a.m., you know, for 20 minutes. Or St. Louis, I'm there for 2 hours, but it's at 2 a.m., you know, another day. So it works out good that I'm there for that long and during actual daytime hours, so
Sure.
we're able to meet a few more people there.
Exactly.
So it'll be good.
I'll see what I can do.
Cool.
Let's move on. In your neck of the woods, neighboring state, obviously the mayor of Seattle seems to think being nice to Muslims is going to make them like us even more. And now, I haven't read all the stuff, and I'm deferring to you because it's right next door to you, and so it's probably all over your news channels more than it is over here. About this adoption of Sharia law in the city of Seattle, and it mostly has something to do with home loans, low financing, that kind of thing. I mean, Well, Seattle's a moonbat city anyway, so what can I tell you, folks? These are the guys that they just came up with that new gasoline tax because everyone's driving electric cars over there to save the planet, and they've noticed that their gasoline tax revenue has dropped off. So, how do you solve the problem? Well, bringing in new businesses and creating jobs, that would never occur to them. No, that's crazy talk. No, we'll just raise more taxes. Yeah, that'll work. And that's what they've done. So take it from here. What is this whole Sharia business going on in Seattle?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. You punish the people that are driving and going to work and doing whatever. But anyway, instead of trying to get those other jobs there, the only thing I really know about it is basically what you said. I guess the Sharia law prohibits them from paying interest on loans. And so I don't know, maybe that's the good thing about their law. Maybe we can all get that, where we're going to pay the banks interest on our loans. But apparently that's what it is. And yeah, so my problem obviously is this, I mean, it's so common sense, but this mayor is catering to these people that are, that practice Sharia law, which I think has no place in America. And yet he's on the record just saying it's great that he's going to cater to them and help them get houses in his city. And I don't know, it just makes me sick. And to see it, right up north from me, it's concerning.
Well, what's going to happen is the same thing that is happening in France and England right now. You have entire townships, enclaves within cities that are entirely Muslim. There is no assimilation going on. They're not trying to adopt the French culture or become French, even French citizens, or even British citizens. And they are basically shunning people away, instituting their very brutal regime type of lifestyle on everybody there. And there's violence. There's mostly violence against citizens, British citizens, French citizens, women in general. Oslo has become the rape capital of Europe, and it's estimated that 9 out of every 10 rapes that occur are committed by a Muslim man upon a white Norwegian woman. And these are things that are facts. These are things that actually are going on. Here in the United States, we have this moon battery going on, where everybody seems to think that if we're just nicer to them, that they're going to like us, that somehow it's going to show them how wonderful a society we are. What these people fail to realize is under Islam, and I know this because I've done some studying on the Quran, and I had to after 9/11, because as I was doing the radio show, I've got to research everything I do, everything I talk about. I can't just say it right off the cuff. One of the things you've got to understand about Islam is Islam negotiates only from a position of strength. In other words, if you come to, let's say we're dealing with ISIS. This is why ISIS is getting away with what they're getting away with. Is because everyone bows to them. Under Islam, that is abhorrent. It is abhorrent. They have no respect for you as a human being if you kowtow, if you placate, or if you try to negotiate. All they know is death. All they know is war. All they know is hate. All they know is violence. Therefore, if you try to say, oh, wait a second, no, let's talk this out, they see you as weak. Therefore, they're not going to say to you, you know what, they're weak, maybe we ought to leave them alone. No, they're going to roll over you with a tank. And they're going to roll through your neighborhood, and they're going to take over your neighborhood. In a very short while, in Seattle, folks, if you're anyone out there who's listening in Seattle, you mark my words, in a few short years, you will be Dearbornistan, just like out there in Michigan. It's the same thing, and it's coming to your city, and you mark my words. Anyway, go ahead, Dad.
And then your current president says we need to give them a stake. We got to do things and give them a stake in things. We got to do this and that, and yeah, it's horrible. And I may have shared this last time I was on your show. I don't remember. I talk about this quite a bit when it comes to this sort of thing. But sitting at a buffet Buffalo Wild Wings watching games, and we'll go in there a lot, and we get a lot of young Muslims that are here for college. I guess they go to Portland State, I don't know, but for some reason they like to go into Buffalo Wild Wings, groups of like 12 or 15 of them. And they'll, just different groups, 4 here and 8 there and whatever, but just a lot of them. And I wasn't there this one day, but a group of 2 or 3 of them cornered one of the young waitresses and basically said to her, "You are my girlfriend now," or "You are mine now," and something to that effect, and literally cornered her and spoke in a very intimidating way.
Yeah.
And if I had been there, I would have probably went to jail that day because I would not have put up with that. I would have definitely let them know that this is not how we do things in America. But that was extremely troubling to hear that, and I don't know, man. It's very troubling to me.
When we see this Iran deal going on, it's the same thing. When I look, as we're finding out more and more as the deal, as it unfolds in the news, we just found out that Iran is going to be able to inspect their own facilities. Yeah, that's going to work real good, folks. I'm telling you, this whole thing is a nightmare. This brings us back to what I just said a couple of minutes ago about how they abhor somebody who negotiates. Somebody who negotiates does so only because they are weak, which is why the Iran deal is so effed up. I mean, if we were negotiating from a position of strength, it would have been one page. You dismantle your nuclear weapons, the sanctions will continue until we're satisfied with it, and if you do not do that, we will continue the sanctions, and if you ever continue funding ISIS or launch any attacks on Israel, the United States will unilaterally intervene and we will turn your country into a glass parking lot. That is a position of strength. If you come at them with that position of strength, then they themselves will negotiate because they see you as not only being strong, but possibly even stronger. That's not what we did here. We made concession after concession, deal after deal after deal, and these guys, being Muslim, remember what I just said a minute ago? They ate it up. They're looking at each other saying, "Wow, these Americans are real milquetoast. Oh, okay, yeah, we'll accept that concession. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, well, of course they agreed with the deal because they got everything. They got everything that they wanted in there. What do you think of this deal? What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, the first thing that I heard about it, I was listening to very biased people that were very in favor of it, and they just thought it was great, and they were going through all the pros of it that they wouldn't be able to create. They thought that they were in a better shape now than they were before this deal.
Right.
But the more I hear about it, the worse it gets. And so I listened to that Republican debate, and they almost all said, day one, I'm going to rip it up and throw it away. So I was like, wow, this is pretty opposite reactions to this thing. The bottom line to me, 2 things. One, why did we not get our hostages that are over there, prisoners, hostages, whatever? There are 4 of them over there. Why were they not a part of the agreement or whatever? Why are they not released? And before any type of negotiating or agreement even started. And so that's crazy to me that they're just like not even thought of in this. And then the second thing is, so to your point, as soon as this is over, the leader of Iran is joking around or whatever and says that they're not going to comply to this stuff or whatever, that they'll probably hide stuff or whatever. He comes out and says that or whatever. John Kerry immediately was really upset about that. But they're
what did you expect?
Yeah, no kidding, man. I don't know. It's just so disturbing. And every time I say the name like John Kerry or these usual names that come up in all this stuff, whether it's John McCain or John Kerry or all these career politicians that have run for president and, all these people, it's just sickening to me. Just that they're involved in all these decisions and all this stuff that goes on. And it just never has to do with the American people or the best interest of America or the world.
Right.
And so I don't know. It makes me sick. You said earlier about, it's probably all over the news, in to 10 minutes of the news, if I can even get that far. And I just can't stand it because it's so biased. It's such crap, and these hosts are just horrible to listen to. I mean, it's absolutely difficult for me to listen to any of these shows. I try to. I get through. I listen to the whole debate, and stuff like that. But these three moderators were all so rude to the candidates, and all this stuff that it's difficult.
Yeah, as I was.
That so many people do listen to it.
I
try to encourage people to listen to talk radio or these other shows. Some of them are still pretty biased, but overall, it's you can find ones where you get the information and you don't have to listen to all that crap.
I mean, I'm a biased radio show. I'm pro-American.
Sure.
I'm completely. I'm pro-Constitution, 100% American, and the reason why, and people do label me as right-wing, and that's okay. I don't care. They're just misinformed. That this is who we are as a nation, or who we used to be as a nation, and the roads that we're going down now are just leading us into a very bad and dangerous spot for our future. And the amount of control that's going on in our government. There was just a report that just came out that as far as the Freedom Index, and the United States moved down into like 20th place. I mean, what we should be at is number one is what we should be at. And the reason why we moved to 20th place is because everything that's going on right now. The cronies that are in Washington, all the regulations, more taxes, eminent domain, the fact that we've turned into a police state, all this NSA spying, all of these things that our founders, I mean, my God, they must be, never mind rolling over in their graves. I mean, they've just turned their backs. I mean, they're in heaven and they're just like, oh, we tried. We did the best we could and we tried. It's like there's just no hope now. I mean, this country's just got to go through.
They're trying to figure out that space travel stuff so they can come back here and fix stuff. So.
Yeah, exactly. Right, exactly.
Yeah, it's bad. And the thing is they warned us, all the way back there about this. Hundreds of years ago, the Thomas Jeffersons and the Andrew Jacksons and all these people went, basically spelled it out. It's written in the Constitution. It's written in all these things. It's like they could see it coming, and they knew what the future would hold if you didn't stick to these principles and these ways of doing things. And it's just getting worse and worse. It's when you talked about the NSA and things like the Patriot Act and all this Homeland Security and all these other things, a lot of that goes back to 9/11, things in the world post 9/11 or America post 9/11, and I'm sure that we talked last time, but that is a big passion of mine, and I think that once we get the truth to come out about 9/11, when we have a real investigation and we get the truth out, I think that I think that the American people will demand, one, that the people responsible are held accountable, no matter who they are, and secondly, I think that we can, wipe out a lot of those things that took away our liberties and freedom as a result of that. And I think that we will be a healthier nation once we get to that point where the truth comes out. I think there'll be that moment of absolute insanity among the people. They're going to take to the streets and make the Baltimore riots look like nothing or whatever across the country. But I think ultimately we will be better off for it. And I imagine that I'm the only candidate that will appear on a ballot that will demand the truth about 9/11.
Sure.
That is something that sets me apart from other candidates. It's a big passion of mine.
Yes.
And if I had the money, I would be in New York on the 11th. That was the other one that was on my list of things I would like to do. I'd like to be at Ground Zero on 9/11 so I could meet all those people that were affected by that day and still are, had their lives ruined, their families taken away from them, and all those things. Because similar to the disclosure and the people that have experienced those things, until you speak to people that lost a husband or a child or any of those type of things in this attack while they're sitting at their desk working, and then to know that the official story is absolute crap.
Yes.
We need that out there, and we don't need these media people that protect and lie to us, sitting there and not covering organizations.
it's the equivalent. I call it. It's the equivalent of a genocide. It's the equivalent of Bosnia. It's the equivalent of Hitler's Germany and Mussolini's Italy. The Stalin, how we just murdered. What is it, like something like 10, 20 million people? Just consolidating his power. And we look at instances like that in our history. We can point to that and we can say, well, that's evil. That's the personification of evil. But yet, when we try to entertain the idea that somebody in our own government, or maybe the powers that be behind our government, were behind something like that and are behind something like that, we can't fathom that. We can't seem to wrap our heads around that. We somehow seem to think that maybe that, these people are above that. But in reality, again, I just said how I've got a whole library here at the studio. And the stuff that I have researched and read over the years, I firmly believe that these people are as evil and as dangerous as any Mao, any Hitler, any Pol Pot that could ever be dreamed up anywhere else in the world. And the fact that they could pull something off like this, they would pull something off like this.
It's been documented ahead of time that these things were laid out in exact proposed, for other events in history that doing the same things that happened on that day. I mean, it's insane, and like you said, the genocide type thing. You look at the 3,000-4,000 people that were killed on 9/11, but look at all the people that died after that, and the people that worked at Ground Zero after that and got all kinds of terminal diseases
right.
and stuff, where firefighters and these people are, they're dying because, they already are dead by now because they ended up inhaling all that crap in their lungs and,
right.
all these other things. And then not only is it the people that died that day, they went relatively quickly. It's the ones that are left behind, the children that lost a father or mother, all these other things that everybody listening, it's common sense to, but just when you really think about it, and I just try to keep people thinking about it because it's been 14 years, and I try to just, it shouldn't be something that we give up on or sweep under the rug. I'm actually pretty amazed in a real positive way with how many people 14 years later are really passionate about this. And if anything, it seems like it's picking up passion, I think. You got the Faces of 9/11 on Facebook where there's just so many people that have those profile pictures up. I think it's great, that people are standing up, and I think more and more people, I don't hear as much, oh, you're a truther or you're a conspiracy theorist when it comes to the 9/11 thing. There was a time where it was a much higher percentage of people that just thought you were un-American and all this sort of thing for questioning the official story. But now I think more and more people are going, not only could it happen, but yeah, I believe it did happen, and it's pretty obvious when you look at World Trade Center 7 alone. You can pretty well figure it out. But in any event, one thing I get into with some people is they'll post on my page and they'll get into things about different religions, or it was this religion was behind it, or this person paid for it, or this is what was used to bring down the towers. And what that sometimes leads to is people kind of debating each other or arguing, and the bottom line is that we all should be in agreement that the official story is not what happened. We need a real investigation. We need the truth to be made public, and we need those responsible to be punished. And I think, when you have somebody like Judy Wood, Dr. Judy Wood, and you have there's another scientist that, she thinks that it wasn't controlled demolition that brought down the towers, but some kind of directed energy or something that was used. Other people think it was brought down with thermite, nanothermite, or controlled demolition, all this stuff. The problem when everybody's fighting each other over the specifics is we get away from that we all agree it was not what we were told. And that's really what the bottom line is. Let the real investigation figure that out, the specifics, but let's work together to make it clear that we demand that. And again, I on September 11th, and I'm sure she would say yes. I certainly don't believe that, and I would think in her position that she would know better. And in both cases, I would ask them, if the American people voted for me and I became president, would I have your support? And I'd be interested in hearing what they would say to that.
Yeah, right.
Bottom line is, I would love to hear those two people, whoever they are, to win the nomination, give their thoughts on 9/11 and if they would do anything about it. And we know that they wouldn't.
Right.
And that right there is a reason not to vote for a Republican or a Democrat in this election.
I completely concur with that, and I would say that if there wasn't a conspiracy, that if it actually did happen the way it's claimed to have happened, then there wouldn't be conspiracy theorists. There wouldn't be all these questions. There wouldn't be people looking at the various videos, looking at the different evidence, and coming up with a different conclusion. If these conspiracies didn't exist, none of that would exist. Everyone would agree, yeah, hijackers, yeah, the planes flew in. And I mean, okay, the planes flew in. We saw them on film. The people were there in New York City. My nephew was there. He saw them come right over. He saw them crash right in. But even still, it's like you have to ask the question. It's like, well, okay, was it that easy? Was it really that easy? I always said, when I started seeing the stories unfold about how the terrorists, well, they took flight classes, but they didn't practice landing. Let me tell you something. And some people might roll their eyes back, but I think it actually is a cogent addition to this conversation we're having. A few years ago, I used to be a gamer, and I used to do it on computer. And one of my big games that I used to play was Flight Simulator. I had the joystick, and I had a really nice, I had a great high-speed system that could, process the information fast enough for me. I played the Janes F-16 Apache helicopter. I did aircraft carrier landings, takeoff, bombing runs. I had set up all of my missions. Let me tell you something. It took me about a month just to learn how to fly on the computer. Never mind an actual simulator like they have, where they actually train pilots. No, just to do it on the computer. It's not an easy thing to do. It really isn't. And if you're working with Janes, and if you know anything about the military, Ed, Janes is the company that actually writes all the manuals for all the military hardware out there. And Janes actually did. They set up, they have a gaming, and they use the gaming to also train our soldiers and our pilots. Well, there's a civilian branch of that, and those were the games that I had. They cost me a heck of a lot of money. They were like $100 and $150 a CD. And never mind the computer system I had to put together for that. I'm telling you, it's not easy. It's not easy to do that. These guys, I think they took what? Maybe a few weeks of classes or something like that. And then suddenly they're able to fly a 757. I got news for you. You can't. I'd sit there for hours a day. I was unemployed over the winter time one time, and I'd spend like hours a day just trying to learn this stuff. And it's like I could barely get the things off the ground, for crying out loud, let alone keep them level, find out my direction. And then, of course, warnings would go off and stuff, and it's like, okay, wait a minute, what's that? And I mean, you can imagine what a real pilot has to go through just flying a plane. How the heck could these guys have done that? How could they have even done that? It just boggles the mind.
Yeah, so for a couple things on that. One is that the pilot that supposedly was flying one of those planes, he had went to a place, I don't remember where it was, Florida or something, and wanted to rent or something, some small little plane, and they took him up to fly, and they decided he wasn't somebody that they would trust to rent it. And so their insurance company required that they go up and demonstrate that they're safe to fly it and all this sort of thing. And so they wouldn't even let him rent a plane.
And this was a prop plane, right? Right.
Yeah, and so how the heck? And then the other thing is, you were talking about I'm sure Microsoft Flight Simulator, one of those, and I used to work at a market research company, and I was there from age 15 in that industry for a long time, and one of our biggest clients there was Microsoft, and they would have all I went from being really good at games to, boy, I couldn't play them at all hardly. But I would have loved to have tried to play that game. But when we would be doing these surveys, so many people would be like, these are so complicated to, learn. I don't want to learn how to fly a plane. I want to play a game
Right.
or whatever.
Right.
And so it made me kind of chuckle thinking about your story on that and how complicated and yeah, I mean, those people were really into it, had all the back then, that was a pretty big deal to have that kind of setup, that fast of a computer or whatever you had to have, you had to really be into your gaming and stuff. And in any event, it's very obvious when you listen to Air Force pilots that flew 757s, and they're like, or people that are in the Air Force and they're showing in simulators and saying, I could not make that, not so much the World Trade Center, but the Pentagon I'm thinking of right now, but the way that the plane would have had to hit there,
Right.
The flight path and how it would have had to hit at that angle and all that, and they're like, it just wouldn't have happened, not to mention what it would have done to the grass and the ground, which ended up being perfectly
Fine.
as if nothing had happened to it at all.
Right.
And all these other things that went on. But for me, I listen to the experts, and to me, those are people that are architects. They are people that know about controlled demolition. They are people that flew planes, flew the very planes that were used supposedly in this. And then also firefighters that were in the buildings and knew about the fires and what was going on. When I listened to the firefighter tapes that were finally released after many years, the transmissions where they were radioing in and saying what they were experiencing inside the towers, it was just amazing how many were reporting explosions in different parts of the building. What they were saying about how not very bad the fires were, that they could knock them down with a couple lines, and stuff like that, and then all of a sudden the towers are all brought down, and including Tower 7 that wasn't even hit by a plane.
Right.
Anyway, we're going over and over it, but I mean, the bottom line is that the official story is not what happened, and we just we got to keep that at the forefront, because until we fix that, until we go back and get that right, I don't believe we can move forward and regain the things that we lost that day. There's some things you'll never get back. Those poor families that lost a loved one and all these other things, I mean, it's disgusting. We talk about reparations and stuff for this and that. What about those families? And
Yeah, they
what
should be
happened
first
to them?
on the list. Right. Let's switch gears a little bit. We got about 9 or 10 minutes here. I know you're going across the country. You're going to go to this group in Maine. You're going to stop off in some states and try to talk to people. What's going on with you locally in your area in Portland? Are you getting out there? Are you talking to people? Are you attending like local either Republican or Democrat or any type of meetings, even Tea Party meetings, anything? I mean, what are you doing locally on the ground to get your name out there?
Yeah, it seems like right now that I do more on the internet and radio shows and things that are not locally, but obviously, this is the only place I can really get around physically right now. I went to an event in Salem, Oregon, that was it was World Trade Center 7 Awareness Day at the state capitol. And I went out there and spoke, and we worked with the architects and engineers for 9/11 Truth and Richard Gage, who's the founder of that, and right there in the Capitol building all day and met a lot of people and went around to all the offices of the Congress people there and tried to get them to wake up, which was next to impossible to get any attention from them, and there was no attention from media there.
Right, wow.
Actually, there were 2 different media outlets that were major media outlets for locally that were there for other events, and they're sitting there and they said, okay, well, we'll call our editor or whatever and see if we can do a story on you or film you or whatever. And there was actually, 1, they wouldn't do it, and 2, they're sitting there panning around to the camera and they're told, do not shoot that sign, do not get that in the picture, do not get this in the picture, so they just were totally shutting us out. But that was an event I went to, and Richard Gage, who in the 9/11 movement, the truth out there. He let me speak to his audience at Willamette University and address them about my candidacy. So that was cool. I go to, there's actually an independent party that has allowed me to attend their meetings and participate in them. I thought that honestly, I never even knew there was an independent party until a few years ago. I just thought that if you were independent, you weren't a member of any party. And so when I found out about them, I started to go to their meetings. They weren't real welcoming of me to begin with. They actually were basically telling me that if I interrupted their meetings or if I tried to hijack their meeting, they said that I would be asked to leave. And, it's just not even my personality. But I thought these would be people that would be much more like-minded, not a member of the big two parties and so on. But they're not very high on my running for president. So, but I do go to their meetings and just try to meet people, and I go to networking events, different things. I go to lectures, different, just whatever I can get into and meet people and listen to whatever they're talking about. There were a couple of things that I went to. One was for Mercy Corps, and one was something like a Doctors Without Borders. And those were very interesting because in both cases, I'm much more interested in things that happen within our country. But in both of these cases, they do things for people in other countries that are in need. And what I really liked about these two organizations is that they don't get any federal funding. They both said that they do not get any federal money, that they survive just on their own donations, and that they don't want the federal government involved in it. And I just thought that was really good. It was kind of eye-opening that these organizations are doing a great job, and they're not reliant on federal funds, because I think that's how it should be. I think if you want to send money, if you want to help people in this foreign country, and a lot of it is great. These are countries where you talked earlier about women being raped and all this sort of thing, but a lot of those women end up pregnant. They end up just going through all kinds of hell. And, so like this Doctors Without Borders goes over and cares for those women, and they have midwives and all that sort of thing. They go over and perform abortions and whatever that is needed in those cases, and offer counseling and all these things. But it's all funded by people that want to see that happen, and not the people that don't want to see it happen. So I think that's big. I get into that whole thing about Planned Parenthood and all these programs that are federally funded. I think it's until this whole thing came out about selling baby carts and all this other crap. I have no problem with an organization like Planned Parenthood doing their thing. I don't understand why any organization like that would get federal money. I just don't understand it. Why should somebody have to pay for something that they don't believe in? Why can't an organization like that be able to be self-sufficient and have donations from the people that want to see it succeed?
That's right. And if it's
back to why, let's not have the government take so much of our money to begin with, where we don't have money to make those choices of what we want to do with it. Why are we giving the government all this money for them to then decide how we spend our money? And so that's a big thing, I think. Getting a little off topic, I'm sure, but you can really...
What I always wondered is that, if these things are federally funded, then why do patients have to go in there and pay? It's like if this is a federally funded program, why isn't it free? So obviously this is a for-profit industry that somehow has some sort of tax loophole so that they get federal funding, and so and this is a violation of that public-private trust. I mean, this is obviously an area where half the nation agrees and half the nation doesn't agree. So as a proper default, the government should basically say, well, then you know what, we're going to keep our hands off of this. We're not going to even be funded.
100% agree.
Yeah.
And what happens is, because people are forced to do something that they don't agree with, that's where this all gets so, where it is, where it's an ongoing fight.
Exactly.
and all this other stuff. I tell people, look, I'm pro-choice. I'm fine with gay marriage and all this stuff. Now, the majority of my supporters are the direct opposite of both of those things. But for me, I never think about those things in my day-to-day life. Those are not hot-button issues for me. things. I wouldn't call my congressman for either of those things. Those are just not my passion. My passion is 9/11. My passion is illegal immigration. Those are the things that I would take to the street with a sign, or I would make calls, or I would get on a radio show and rant about. Those are my thing. Now, if your thing is that you hate abortion and you think that should be outlawed, by all means, go do your thing. But when you start forcing people to pay for things, that's a big issue. Now you're actually taking money from somebody and putting it somewhere that they don't believe.
Yeah, you've crossed the line.
And that's a problem.
You've crossed the line. Ed, give your website, give your information. I want to thank you again, man. Thanks for calling in.
And anytime, I really appreciate you having me on and letting me talk to your audience. My website is edbaker2016.com. That's going to be a reoccurring theme here. On Facebook, it's facebook.com/groups/edbaker2016. And my email address is ed@edbaker2016.com.
There you go.
I'm available to talk to anybody anytime. Just need all the help and letting other people know that I'm real and really serious about this. We can win this election. We can derail this evil agenda that is in place. I have full confidence in my supporters that we can get the word out and we can win this. So I thank you so much.
All right, Ed. Thanks a lot. I will talk to you down the road, and I'll see what I can do about next Thursday.
Hope so. Thanks a lot.
All right, Cap. See you later. Hopefully I got that right. That was excellent. Ed Baker, out in Portland, Oregon, running for president. The Meat Potato Show, conservative talk, awesome rock. We're going to play a few things here, and I'll be back in a few minutes. I've got to shut off the tape, and we'll be back.
Far more politicians, let's say in the far right, who are less than